Welcome to the Grow Down on Soil Health, the podcast where we dig deep into sustainable farming practices that can enhance your land and your bottom line. I'm your host, Dr. Ben West, Executive Director of Farmers for Soil Health, a program dedicated to improving soil health practices like planting cover crops. In today's episode, we're digging into what happens when the soil starts working with you instead of against you. We'll talk about what it really takes to build a system that fits your operation, because there's no one-size-fits-all approach to farming. Joining me today is Coleman from Dillon, South Carolina. Carl spent 36 years as a farmer, working the land before transitioning into the seed industry. His son Caleb now runs the farm, and he's the co-owner of Ag Choice with his son-in-law Michael. With decades of hands-on farming experience and a strong dedication to soil health and sustainability, Carl now provides practical insight and trusted guidance to farmers throughout the region. Carl, really appreciate you joining us today.
Glad to be here.
So it sounds like you're a pretty busy guy.
Got a lot going on.
Running a business. I know you're not farming, but you're probably still pretty involved in the farm operation. If nothing, then just to give advice and ideas.
I try
and
to help where I can without being overbearing.
Yeah, I understand. It's a fine line.
It is, yes, sir.
But you're also busy in your personal life. Sounds like you've got a whole passel of grandkids that keep you pretty busy.
We've got 4 grandkids. From Carly is 8, Watson's 5, Wyatt is 2, and Lane just turned 1. So we have we're kind of starting over, but we get to have fun while we're doing it. Instead of all the responsibilities, we just they get to come over, have a great time, then they get to go home.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to deal with the tough stuff.
No,
parents
sir.
Get to do that.
Absolutely.
Are they close to you?
They are.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, both of my kids live within 10 miles of us, so
yeah,
we get to hang out and have a good time, and like I said, send them on home, and then I get to hang out with my bride. So
that's awesome.
It's a good time.
So I've been reminiscing about parenting lately, because my youngest daughter just graduated from high school.
Okay.
So I've checked the box. I have 2 daughters. I've reared 2 humans successfully. And so, I'm not in any rush for grandkids. I hope I don't have some for quite some time. But I have been thinking about, like, that will be the next time I interact with the young kids. It'll probably be my grandkids at some point in the future, if they decide to have kids. It's got to be familiar but different than raising your own kids.
It is night and day. So I had a friend who had their first grandkid over 10, I don't know, it's probably 15 years ago, and I made a comment one day. I said, you might be easy on that one, or you might, Carl, you just don't understand. Grandkids are different. I said, no, it can't be that much different than my own kids. And until you have them, you don't know. And it is night and day. It is a whole nother world with a grandkid. I really can't explain what it is, but it is maybe it's the excitement in their eyes when they get to see you, and just kind of whatever it is completely different, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it until we get to the point we're not cool anymore. That's going to happen.
That'll be a long time.
Well, that's right. But
I'm not sure grandparents ever lose their coolness. They're not like parents.
Well, that's right. But certainly, maybe it's not quite as much fun when at some point. But
I'm assuming some of the difference, a big part of the difference, is because you're different. One of my favorite musicians is a guy named Jason Isbell, and he wrote a song called "Children of Children," and the song's about, like, oftentimes when parents have kids, they're not really grown themselves. They may be in their 20s, but
that's right.
But they're still pretty young, and it's got to be different interacting with young kids after a much more life experience and maturity.
I think we do see things a lot different. I feel sure that my parents thought that I wasn't the greatest parent when I started out, and I questioned my kids' parenting ability sometimes. So I guess that's just an evolution of how things go. Yeah. And it's a good thing we're all different. It'd be a boring place, wouldn't it? If
it sure would. So, it sure would. But I do, raising kids, it's a challenge.
No doubt.
When I was born, my parents were great parents. They both passed away. But when I was born, my parents were both in their late 30s and had raised 4 kids already. I was the youngest of 5. So I talk with my older siblings about what it was like growing up. And they're like, your parents weren't the same as our parents.
That's right.
I mean, they were, but they were 15 or 20 years older,
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had mine, I think I was 23 when our first one was born, which I wouldn't do a thing different because I was able to enjoy him. In other words,
Absolutely.
we were able to, we water skied a lot, did different things, and I was young enough that I could still do things like that. I don't think I could now, but
Well, that is the other side of the coin. If you have kids when you're young, you may not have much wisdom, but you got a little more energy than you do.
There's no
Yeah.
doubt.
Well, let's talk about cover crops a little
Sure.
bit. You are a pretty staunch advocate of cover crops today, but you didn't start that way.
I did not. Our family farm, my dad and my brother, we farmed together, and we adopted no-till, I think, in 1990. And we've been doing no-till for years and years and years. And I was actually on the Dillon Soil and Water Board, so I was a commissioner. And we had these annual meetings. And I've heard about cover crop, but we never implemented anything. We'd never done anything, and nobody in my county, to my knowledge, had. And we went to an annual meeting, and the speaker that year was Ray Archuleta. And I never met Ray, but he has the gift of gab. I mean, he is a tremendous speaker that can maintain your attention. I think that's too. When you've got good information, but you can keep people's attention. And he was talking about some stuff, people that he knew in the Midwest. He mentioned Gabe Brown, Dave Brandt, some guys out there, of things they were doing about not having to put as much fertilizer, about reducing input costs, and all these different things. And I mean, he was just painting a picture about cover crops that was just too good to believe. I mean, no way all that could have been true. But while we were there, I was sitting there with several fellow farmers who were commissioners, and we walked out of that meeting, and we all agreed that dude was crazy. In other words, everything that he said, there was no way. But we all agreed that if part of it was true, it was worth looking at. So we literally left that meeting, and we came back, and we all ordered some cover crop seed. We said, you know what, we're going to try it. I tried a little bit. Two or three of my neighbors tried a little bit, and that is how it started. Is just him kind of planting that seed about some things, and of course, what we thought, Dave Brandt might can do it, or Gabe Brown, but they're in the Midwest.
It's not for everybody.
No, and it won't work here.
Yeah.
We're in our coastal plain soils, sandy loam. You know, we have a lot of heat, we have a lot of moisture. And they say it's impossible to increase organic matter because of those things. And
you're going to have a hard time with termination, and you're going to have this. You're going to have that's right. So many things.
You name it, a plethora.
Yeah.
But he intrigued us enough to try it, and we all came home, and we ordered some cover crop seed, and that initial order, I didn't know it at the time, but ordering that cover crop seed would, several years down the road, put me in the seed business. So anyway, that's another story we can hit a little bit. But we all came home. We ordered some cover crop seed. We had no idea what we were doing. There's very little research at that time. You know, we talked to some of our extension guys. We talked, NRCS has some basic information, but
this is back in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Early 2000s.
Okay, early 2000s.
But late 90s, early 2000s. And there was some base information, but not a lot. And we came back and we planted it and we tried it, and we thought it was something worth trying. In other words, the first little bit we did, it seemed to go kind of okay, but we had about as many questions as we had answers.
Yep.
But it did intrigue us enough to continue to move forward with that.
Well, just as an aside, I love this story because I sometimes teach scientists how to present their work to regular people. And I always tell them, like, the ability to take technical information and communicate it to people in ways that they can pay attention to, understand, remember, and believe has real impact in the world. You can change people's entire lives if you can give them an idea that they can take into their life and incorporate it. And this is a perfect example. It literally was a presentation that changed the trajectory of the rest of your career.
And again, I use the word in not a bad way, but dumb things down where the everyday guy can understand it.
Yes.
And Ray just has a absolute gift for being able to present things in a way that you say, you know what, I can make this work, or I want to learn more about it.
And if you had not seen that presentation,
if I hadn't have been there, I don't think.
What would you be doing today?
I'd be doing what I always did.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's one thing about farming. I think we're creatures of habit.
Yes.
Yeah, we adapt new things. We adapt no-till and we do this, but core fundamentally, you're kind of using the same thing you've always done.
Absolutely.
And I believe that that's where I would be at today. And I'm very thankful that's where I was and what happened. It's been a great journey. I've learned a lot. I've got a lot of new friends. I've got new opportunities. It's been a good deal.
So this one presentation changed the trajectory of your career, changed how you farm, probably because of that changed how lots of other people farm, because you've been such an advocate, and I know you've mentored other people and helped other people think about how to use this tool.
Yeah, well, it has, but I'll say there was another pivotal point in there. So we were planting these cover crops for a couple of years, and it turned out all we were doing was adding another expense.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we were doing it, we were buying the cover crop seed, we were planting it, but we didn't change anything else. So I got to looking at the numbers, and we got talking among my neighbors that were doing this, and I said, well, all we've done is add another expense. And Ray was talking about how you could cut back on this and how you could do that, and da-da-da-da. So I started making some phone calls. And what I got back with, we don't know. We don't know how much you can cut phosphorus. We don't know how much you can cut potassium. We don't know what you can do on nitrogen. And one guy said to me, have you ever met Buzz Clute? And I said, nope, don't have a clue, never heard of the name. And he said, well, he does a lot of videography for the NRCS. He's interviewed Gabe Brown, he's interviewed Ray Archuleta, he's interviewed Brandt, and travels all over the country, does these things. And he might know because he knows all these people. So got his phone number, called him up. This guy has zero background in farming, none. He was a professor at the University of South Carolina. And I just told him what we're doing. He said, well, Carl, I don't know, but I'll try to make some phone calls. I'll see what I can find out. Well, it turned out that there wasn't a lot of people in the Southeast. We knew the basic fundamentals, right? Mm-hmm. And Buzz was instrumental. He wrote a SIG grant. Mm-hmm. That is a Conservation Innovative Grant through the NRCS.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay. To look at how we could reduce inputs. Basically, it was a 3-year grant, and we took half the field. We did nothing to other than nitrogen, and the other half we did what we always did. Mm-hmm. And he got 5 farmers to participate. Me, 2 of the other guys that were at the meeting, and 2 other, and it was over kind of a wide area. The data we got from that started this whole journey. In that, more in depth about what can we learn, what can we reduce, and what we saw in that SIG grant is that where we put no P and K, but we had a cover crop growing, our P and K numbers did not drop.
Mm.
Our nitrogen our pH, instead of going up and down every year like a seesaw like it did before, it stabilized. Manganese that we were applying every year before, all of a sudden it started going up without even applying it. And I asked Buzz, what's going on? Why is this happening? And about the only thing he could tell me, he said, well, Carl, it's your biology in your soil. Your biology is you've got it churning and burning, you've got living roots in the soil, and there's nutrients there that aren't plant available. It's making them plant available. So that kind of opened up this whole thing. Well, what more can we do? And that kind of got us going on a path of, number one, implementing more cover crops. seeing some of these things that we could see these changes, and trying to reduce our cost and become more profitable.
So I really want to explore this with you. We've had lots of guests on the show. We've talked about how to establish cover crop, species selection, termination. Sure. Talked about all of that. You bring a really interesting perspective about the input cost benefit of cover crops. And
right.
as we were talking before the show, I live and work in West Tennessee, an area agronomically pretty similar to where you live.
Sure.
And if you look at the data right now around commodity prices and input costs, it's hard to see a pathway for profitability for many of our farmers. And I've been asking people for a year now across all sectors of agriculture, what's the pathway? How can a farmer in our part of the world, we're not Iowa, our 10-year soybean average yield is about 47 bushels an acre. And the University of Tennessee, every year publishes like, what are you going to have to yield to break even at average input costs, and it's $45 an acre. So there's not much margin there.
No.
For half of the fields, they're in the red.
Yes.
In best case scenario potentially. So I've been asking a lot of people, what's the pathway? I've gotten very few answers, but this might be a pathway. It could be part of the solution.
Certainly controlling your inputs.
Yes.
I think as an industry, farmers are inundated with advertising and marketing and spending more. Yes. You pick up a magazine, it's got the latest, greatest fungicide.
Everything. Seed treatment, everything.
Whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
And everything pushed on us is about spending more money, more seed, more fertilizer, more this, more that. And of course, as you do that, you got to raise yield, right?
Yes.
In my mind, as a farmer in the seed business, and I've been through all this. We've farming cyclical, just like everything else. And there's years you look at what crop can I lose the least amount of money on, not what can I make money on, what can I lose the least amount of money on to survive to another year, right?
Yes.
And as we were all, if you keep doing what you've always done, that's how you have to look at things.
Yes.
Well, with cover crops, what we're learning is if you approach cover crops as a systems approach, okay? I think one of the worst mistakes that are made is guys say, I'm going to plant cover crop, and they don't change anything else they're doing.
Yes.
Okay?
Just like you did.
Yep. They add another expense. How am I going to pay for that expense? And they're not looking at anything else. So when we started seeing this information, and this led into more research, we would do meetings. They would ask me and Buzz to come speak at a meeting about what we were seeing. And, man, I was just so excited. I was jacked up. We were reducing some cost on our farm and everything. And we got called out by some extension people. Were those plots randomized and replicated? Nope, sure weren't. It's a split field. But it was 5 different farmers over 5 locations. Doesn't matter. It wasn't randomized or replicated.
Yeah.
So, Buzz, there is some type of site. I do not know the name of it. But you can submit a scientific research idea, and you can get it crowdfunded. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
We crowdfunded. We raised either $5,000 or $10,000, and we did a randomized replicated test.
On farm.
And we saw the same thing. Our protocol was do exactly what the university said, do absolutely nothing, don't put any P and K but put half the nitrogen, and then don't put any P and K and put a full rate of nitrogen. Those were our 4 things. We replicated that 5 times, randomized and replicated, and we doubled the whole test. So we had a couple of years under our belt, and basically what it showed, where cover crop was across the whole thing, where we put no P and K versus where we put exactly what the university said, there was no yield difference, and our level stayed the same. So we were seeing the exact same thing in a randomized replicated deal, and we carried that test on for 5 years.
Wow.
So we got some great data. And matter of fact, one of the craziest things, our potassium. So potassium seems to be one thing that we keep having to apply in our sandy loam soils. Phosphorus holds on pretty good, but potassium doesn't. And this is wild. We had 5 years of data where we had put 0 potassium, beginning level before we started, ending level after we ended, versus where we started and we put 100 pounds of potassium every year because that's what the soil sample wanted. The levels where we applied potassium were lower than where we put none. Now, that makes no sense whatsoever, other than maybe the salt and the potassium was hurting our biology, and our biology was doing all the work in the other plots.
Yes.
Again, this gave us a lot of confidence to start cutting back dramatically on what we did, okay? The other thing that gave us a lot of confidence is Buzz said, well, and again, Buzz does not have a farming background. Why are we only soil sampling 6 inches deep? I said, well, that's the standard.
Yeah.
He said, well, certainly there's more nutrients than 6 inches deep. So we started putting...
And the roots go deeper than 6 inches, right?
So we started, we went out and pulled 0 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 24. Turns out there's 3 to 4 times the amount of P and K below 6 inches than at 6 inches. That gave us confidence. Said, well, if we're depleting it a little bit at the top, look at all these reserves we have down at the bottom. So we started using this information, not only on my farm, but some of my neighbors, of saying, hey, let's cut back and let's see what happens. So that's what we started doing. We cut back dramatically on the amount of P and K that we were putting out, and we saw no effect on yield. The main effect we saw was we were saving a ton of money, reducing our cost of inputs, therefore increasing our profits.
Wow.
Okay, so we started looking at it like that. Another ginormous thing that I can share is we had been putting out manganese. So manganese is a minor element that we are deficient in our soils. Mm-hmm. We've been putting out manganese for 20 years. We were putting out manganese oxide, and finally my fertilizer guy said, well, we aren't building any levels. What if we switch to a manganese sulfate? It's more water soluble. And so we spent more money. Levels still never really came up. Had to do it year after year after year after year. When we started doing cover crops, our manganese levels went from around 10 pounds to 40 in our soils.
Wow.
It was always...
And you stopped applying manganese.
Yeah. It went up after we stopped. Wow. Because we quit putting out high salt and synthetic fertilizers. And we were using cover crops to get our biology churning and your microbes to make those elements that are not plant available.
Yes.
All of a sudden they're available.
Yeah. Carl, isn't it interesting? The science of agriculture, the science of everything has advanced so much in our 2 lifetimes.
No doubt.
We know so much more, but there's still, we know almost nothing about the biological interactions in the soil. I'm a wildlife biologist, but I took a good number of soils classes in college in the 90s. And you know exactly what I'm going to say. We talked about the chemical and the physical qualities of soils. We didn't talk anything about biology. It wasn't even mentioned. And I think it's so interesting now when I hear some farmers, and pretty much what you're saying. I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with Will Harris recently, this 100% regenerative livestock producer down in Georgia, who pretty controversial in some circles, but he's gone 100% regenerative organic.
Sure.
And he said, when I started farming, a conventional operation, I took over from my dad, I thought we grew livestock. And after 10 years, I changed my mindset, and I thought we grew grass.
Right.
And now what I think is I grow microbes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I really want to grow is microbes, because if I promote really biologically rich, healthy soils, everything else will work.
No doubt. That is what I have learned is the basis of making all this work is if you've got your biology churning, it affects everything. It affects the amount of weed seed that germinate and become a problem. Mm-hmm. More balanced soil is less conducive to a lot of weeds and stuff. But it is absolutely, and it fundamentally goes against everything we've been taught from universities. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And we've challenged a lot of that because we're seeing you can build organic matter in sandy loam soils in the Southeast. We probably all started with a 0.5 organic matter.
Pretty common.
Very common. And I would dare say that the average on some of my guys who have really gone whole hog into this, they're probably into 3% or higher range.
Wow.
Which is huge.
And still climbing.
Still going.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it will climb for decades, probably.
Theoretically, it'll keep on going. I mean, we don't know.
Yes.
We don't know how far it can go. I've seen, so we have in our areas that we're flat. We don't have hills, but I'll say a highly eroded ridge in a field is nothing but clay.
Yeah.
Okay? All the topsoil's been washed off of it. We farm that land. We go across that ridge, and normally the crop will come up, but eventually, if we get really hot and dry, it may even die because the clay, it gets hard as rock. I have seen these guys planting cover crop. They have added about 2 inches of topsoil on top of that clay. So you go out there right
just in
now.
A decade or so, yeah.
Matter of fact, the clay changes quicker than your sandy soils. You'll see a quicker change on clay land, or so we've seen.
Right.
But I'm saying that fundamentally changing that soil profile. Same thing in our sandy soils. That when you think about beach sand, what it looks like, we're getting a dark layer now because we're increasing organic matter.
Sure. And
when you do that, then it starts turning darker, and you can peel it back, and you see those layers in there. So we're actually changing the soil and the soil profile, and in turn, we're harvesting more water when it rains, which makes us more resilient when we get dry. Mm-hmm. And one thing that my customer shared with me, we're losing those, it's not just a roller coaster now, up and down, drought and a crazy, terrible crop. We've kind of leveled out some. And those really dry years aren't affecting him as bad as they used to, which makes him more profitable.
Absolutely.
Because he doesn't have that terrible year that he's got to recover from the next 2 or 3 years to try to make up the money that got lost.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And so we know, and we're starting to see glimpses into, benefits, biological benefits of cover crops. But we still have a lot of questions. In your mind, if you could wave a magic wand and get the answer to 1 or 2 questions about cover crops, and particularly the biological, results, soil biology results, what would they be? What would you really like to know that you don't know today?
In the seed business, I'm always working with customers trying to come up with a good blend. In other words, we're trying to, look at their crop rotation and come up with a blend that works for them. I wish if I could wave that wand and I would have the answer to which species that I could put in a blend that are going to do the most for the biology in the soil. Are there certain things that do more than others? Because we're kind of guessing at that. We kind of know what works, but I think there's so much about the biology, what's going on underground, that nobody really has a clue of. I know we have a basic understanding. I heard a guy on a podcast one time, I get lost in this science and all these fancy words, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you. A guy said, here's the simplest way I can explain what biology does to make nutrients more available. He said a microbe can eat a rock and excrete something that's plant available. Yeah. Bottom line, rocks are not plant available. So you've got a fertilizer that is there, it's in rock form. It may take 40 years before it breaks down enough to be available. But that microbe, that biology in that soil can eat that rock, and what he excretes out is immediately plant available.
Wow. And
that just, for me, as a farmer, and I get these questions off, well, I don't understand, if you're not putting fertilizer, how many blankety blank can you do, da. And there's a lot of pushback from the industry. Yeah. We talked about those magazines, right? Yeah. And what you're inundated with, whether it's Facebook or digital or whatever it is. But, when I started down this road, my fertilizer dealer said, Carl, it's going to take you 3 times the money to build your soils back because you're going to deplete them of all the nutrients.
Because of cover crops.
No, because I wasn't putting synthetic P and K.
Yes. Gotcha.
You'll get by with it for 2 or 3 years, but you're going to pay the piper down the road. Well, guess what? 5 years later, I went to him, and our soil levels were maintaining where we were. I just ain't never seen nothing like this.
The piper hadn't come calling.
Well, I'm just saying. But, I had the same dealer, and I was friends enough with him that he called me out. I was going to call him out.
Yeah.
And, hey, if you tried to do that without cover crops, yes, you'll deplete your soils. Yes, you're going down a bad road. But the biology in the soil that we can support with our cover crop, that's what's making these things go.
Yes.
That's what's turning this whole thing and making it work.
So I always tell people, I don't believe in magic. But if you see a biological phenomena you don't understand, it looks like magic. And a microbe eating a rock to create nutrients that are plant available looks a lot like magic, but we're just starting to understand it. And so, if you could wave a magic wand, you'd like to be able to understand perfectly what species to put together in a mix. And I'm assuming, fast forward 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, as we develop better understave of this.
I think.
Could you see a day where we could, for a specific field, you put together a specific mix?
There is no doubt. I have seen, I have heard about some studies that they looked at different mixes, different blends, and for whatever, they don't understand it, but they saw more soil biology being amplified and better yields with certain mixes.
Wow.
So a little bit of that, maybe got me thinking about that just a little bit. But again, as a farmer in the seed business, my goal is, and it sounds corny, but my goal is to help the farmer. Certainly, I got to make money to stay in business, but my heart and everything that I do, I look at it from the farmer's perspective. Ben, if you came to me and said, Carl, I want to plant a cover crop, I'm not looking at you as a customer I can make money on. Certainly, I hope I do, but my goal is to create a relationship with you that we can help develop something for you and your farm, and we can evolve that and grow it and make it what works for you. And if I do that, I'm going to be successful in the business. You're going to be successful, right? Mm-hmm. And that's Absolutely. A win-win, rather than looking at somebody and say, hey, boy, that'd be a good hit one time, and if they don't come back, I'm fine with that. That's not our goal.
Yeah, you want to build a business for the long haul. The only way to do that is for farmers to be economically successful, because they're the ones paying you.
They're the ones the ones. If they're not successful, we're not going to be successful.
So I want to dig into that transition that you made from being a farmer to being a seed company now. But before we dig into that, let's talk for just a minute about Farmers for Soil Health. It's a program created in partnership with the Soy Checkoff, the Pork Checkoff, and the National Corn Growers Association. The program was established by farmers for farmers and focuses on strengthening soil health practices to enhance the environment and, as we're talking about, farmers' bottom line. We're bringing you tangible, experience-based, and research-backed information that can help farmers be more successful. Now, enrollment is open for the program now. It's going to be open through August, ends end of the day on August the 31st. Farmers can enroll up to 2,000 acres. They'll receive $35 per acre with only a 1-year commitment, and it doesn't matter whether they've cover cropped those acres in the past. So it's a really good opportunity for farmers to get paid for some of the good work that they're doing. So listeners listening, go to our website, farmersforsoilhealth.com, and you can learn more about the program and see who the technical advisor is in your state to help you get enrolled and answer any questions. So, Carl, you have really been a pioneer in the cover crop space, both as a farmer first, but at some point you decided I want to really double down on cover crops and help other farmers.
Actually,
how did it happen?
That wasn't the motivation, Ben. So here's what happened. I told you when we heard Ray Archuleta speak, I came back. I didn't really do my due diligence. I didn't call up 2 or 3 different retailers and say, hey, I want you to price me a cover crop blend. And I just called up one of my local guys said, hey, I want a cover crop blend. I know I want legume, brassicas, and a grass. And how about do that for me? I don't know. We maybe did 50 acres, whatever it was. And I went down to the NRCS. I signed up for EQIP. Back then, you could get money almost immediately. I mean, now they kind of changed the way that works. But
it's more competitive now.
Well, it's more competitive, and it takes longer. You're almost a year behind now. You're signing up for next year. Anyway, long story short, the payment for cover crop at that time was $75 an acre. Great payment. Mm-hmm. Guess how much my bill was when I got my bill for my cover crop?
More than $75.
No, it was $74.95.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So basically, my retailer knew the program, and turned. And
of course, that didn't cover your gas.
Well,
or your
that
time,
didn't cover.
So yeah.
But in my mind, I said, well, you know what? At least it didn't cost me anything. But then, as we got that first year under our belt, and we started learning more stuff, I said, man, without a program, I can't afford to do this. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
So me and my son, we built a blender in our shop, and I made that exact blend the following year for $25.
So you bought the seed.
And we made the blend.
Unblended. Wow. Okay.
So that's quite a profit margin.
Huge.
Anyway,
I'm not a mathematician, but that's 3x.
So what we did is we started blending our own cover crop. Mm-hmm. Well, the neighbors started saying, hey, can you help us with ours? One thing led to the other. And my son was in high school at the time, fixing to go to Clemson, and he helped us with that. And he had a pretty good understanding of cover. And he kind of helped us on that, and we started a little small company. And very small. I was still farming full time. I had a custom application business I was doing along with this, and it just kept growing. We bought a seed cleaner so that we could clean some of our own oat seed, save a little bit of money. And then a guy said, you know what? I've got these Roundup Ready 1 soybeans that are really good. That boy, nobody's growing them. It'd be a great opportunity for y'all. We started growing certified soybeans.
Wow.
One thing led to the other, and the company, our seed company, got to the point I just couldn't do it all. Mm-hmm. Caleb was finishing up college, and I told him, I said, son, we got to do something. And he said, well, Daddy, I'd rather farm. He said, and I enjoy people. I love helping people. I enjoy, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, you do that. I said, I'll do the cover crop business. It turned out that not long after that, my daughter and my son-in-law, Michael, moved from the upstate back down home. Michael started helping me in the seed business. We're now partners in that, in Choice Ag. And again, one thing just led to the other. It wasn't really a say, hey, I'm going to go out here and do this. But as I got involved, what I found is that what happened to me happens to a lot of people. They go to the retailer and say, I want to plant cover crop. I'm in the program. And
here's the mix I got to have.
And I hate to say it, but a lot of times the dollar signs go up. You know what I'm saying? And instead of asking questions, yep, I got the perfect cover crop for you. And they didn't ask you anything. Mm-hmm. How much biomass can you handle? What's your next crop rotation? All these things that play a big part. And so there was a need for someone to do. So one of our niches in our business is if you were to call me and say, Carl, I want to plant covers, we're going to have a conversation. It's going to probably be 30 minutes to an hour. We're going to figure out how are you going to plant? Are you going to sling it or are you going to drill it? When are you going to plant? What is your next crop? How much biomass can you handle? Do you want a lot really tall, or you say, no, that scares me, I want something short? Mm-hmm. All these things are going to factor in to what blend that we come up for you.
And probably dig into, as we've talked to farmers who use cover crops, usually the entry point is different for everyone. Some people's interested in weed suppression. They're interested in erosion. They're interested in, whatever.
Those are part of the questions that we're finding out. What are your concerns?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? What are you trying to accomplish by your cover crop? And then what we try to do is come up with a blend that, number one, is cost effective. It's got to be cost effective, whether you're in the program or not, okay? Because my goal is, even if you're in the program, and I don't care if you are or not, I want you to be able to afford to do it when the program's gone.
Yes.
Right? That's the goal.
Yes.
The program is
that has to be the goal.
Yes, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so our goal is to come up with a blend that's going to help you the most. And then not only come up with that blend, but we keep those on file. You call me next and you say, Carl, I really liked A, B, C, D, and E sucked. Or I didn't see enough of them, or I didn't like, and we start tweaking it. We start tweaking it to make it your blend, and that may evolve 3 or 4 years. You know, and then we really come up with something that works for you. And that's just what we do. Is it's a one-on-one. We made over 100 different blends last fall because everybody's different.
Yes.
And so we're making those blends, and hopefully they're going to work for you. And then if you come and say, well, Carl, I've heard about reducing inputs, and I've heard about what can you do, if that door's open, then I start sharing experiences that my customers have had.
Right.
Now, if you're not open to that, I might as well be beating my head against the wall. If your goal is not to cut expenses, and believe me, there's some guys, I've done it this way, I'm going to keep doing it that way.
Yes.
You know, I don't take the time to do all that. But if a guy says, man, I'm struggling and I heard cover crops can help me, you know, save some money and do this and do that, then we take and I share. I say, hey, I got 2 customers here that are fundamentally changed the way they farm, no synthetic P&K for the last 10 years. You know, they are implementing some chicken litter, and they've seen herbicide reductions, insecticide reductions, they're increasing organic matter, and I share that with them. And we kind of go down that road, and the best advice I can give them if they're really nervous is take one field on your farm. Quit putting out synthetic P&K. It ain't going to break you. If it falls off a cliff, you'll say, you know what, that Carl's the dumbest dude I've ever met in my life.
But it's 40 acres.
But I said, but probably what you're going to find is your P&K level is going to stay flat.
And it can completely change how they farm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you got to...
So you're using no synthetic P&K? Were you using cover? Zero. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. So you've been in the business 10 years.
Yep.
And full-time since 2019.
Yep.
I bet you've seen a lot of changes in how farmers think about cover crops, what they talk, because it is a practice that has relatively low adoption across the country. More and more farmers are getting into it. But just like you talk, one of the things I've noticed is new farmers are terrified of biomass, and you've mentioned it 2 or 3 times. But now I'm talking to more farmers like, oh yeah, I've been using them for a few years now, and I'm okay. Like I like to see some tall stuff. What are the big shifts that you're seeing in how farmers are thinking about cover crops and managing them?
So I think that you know, one of the first things is because of our economic situation right now, inputs through the roof, commodity prices, you know, where they are, people are more open now to listening to what we're talking about on reducing inputs.
Yes.
Right? Not out of
big time survival.
Out of necessity.
Out of survival. That's
yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I think that people are more open to that conversation. I've been involved like with the North Carolina Soil Health Coalition. I mean, to be honest, I will be involved with anybody trying to promote cover crops because I just feel like it's the right thing to do. We're doing the right thing for the environment, right? I mean, if we can be more sustainable, we can reduce our input costs while doing the right thing. I mean, it's kind of a win-win-win. But guys are more open to, I think, to talking about some of this. I'm going to share this. I get people to sometimes they say, well, man, if these guys are doing all that, why doesn't every farmer in the world do it, right? If you can reduce inputs and you can do this and you can do that, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, farmers have a hard time with change.
Yes.
We're okay on incremental change, a little bit here, a little bit there, but don't go too far, right? Because, you know, number one, we've been told this is what we have to do. You've been told, you know, if you don't maintain your P&K levels, if you don't put at least maintenance levels every year, it's going to go down, you're going to go out, that's what we've been told. So when you hear, you know, crazy things like this, man, that dude's lost his mind. Or that's a outlier or whatever. But I think people are more open to at least entertaining the idea maybe there is something different. And I think a part of the reason it's hard to wrap your head around, we can't see it.
Yes.
You can't see microbes.
Yes.
Right? There are billions of them supposedly in a shovelful.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't see them.
That's right.
But I will say this. Ray Archuleta said one time, somebody said, Ray, how do I know I got a healthy soil? And that was a great question.
Yeah, it sure is.
And I share this with a lot of people. He said, I tell you what I can do. He said, in 5 minutes, I'll know if you got a healthy soil or not. I said, and he said, it's going to take me 3 to walk out in your field. He said, I'm going to walk out in your field. He said, if I see residue all over the ground, like if you're a no-tiller, and you know you're seeing this year's crop, last year's crop, all this residue on the ground, number one, you probably don't have a healthy soil. He said, number two,
it's not decomposing.
Yes,
it's not decomposing.
It's not decomposing.
There's no microbial activity.
Yes. The only thing that's decomposing is time.
Yes.
And time, it takes a long time, okay? The second thing he said, I'm going to dig down in your dirt, and I'm going to turn it over. If I don't find an earthworm, you don't have a healthy soil. Because if your soil cannot support an earthworm, it can't support microbial activity. And that has been one of the coolest things that when people ask me about that I share with them. And I said, do you have any earthworms? I don't know. I said, do you ever see them? No. So I'll share this. On my farm, we have been no-till since 1990. When I started this journey, let's say it was 2000, I don't know when it was. Let's just say it was 10. I don't know when. I have no idea. I have never seen an earthworm in one of my fields, ever. So I planted, this was the second year of cover crops. We started implementing some. I was doing part of a farming cover crop, the other part not. I'm out there planting my first field green this year. And I'm scratching down trying to find my seed because I want to make sure my corn seed is 2 inches deep, and I want to make sure it's spaced about 9 inches apart. And
so you do a test pass, and then
we're just out there planting. Okay. My guy's on the planter. I'm sitting there behind him, and I'm on, butt in the ground, trying to find things. And here's an earthworm. I've never seen that. And I'll go over there, and I scratch down, and there's another earthworm. And I have never in my life seen this. Again, I called Buzz. I'd met Buzz. We were already doing our little bit of work. I said, Buzz, what in the world? He said, well, Carl, other than, you've had a cover crop out there all winter, and you've got...
After 1 year.
Right.
Yeah,
and this field's first year. And I said, well, what did they just magically appear? He said, I don't understand all that, but I'm just telling you. So I was jacked up, to say the least, okay? So I went, and, this goes back to my story about I planted cover crop, but I kept doing everything I'd always done. So I went out there, and I burnt my cover crop down with a herbicide. I put out my liquid nitrogen like I always did, and I put an insecticide in there for cutworms like I always have. So 2 weeks later, I have a perfect stand of corn. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I go out and I start scratching down. I cannot find an earthworm anywhere. I'm thinking, what's going on here? It's called Buzz. What in the world? Why don't I have earthworm? What have you done, Carl? I said, well, I did my burn down, I did my liquid nitrogen, I did my herbicide, and I did my insecticide. He said, why'd you do an insecticide? I said, well, I did it for cutworms. He said, do you have cutworms? I said, well, I just always do it because...
I don't want them.
And it's cheap. Yeah. It's only $1.50. He said, well, Carl, it'd be my opinion that you just undid everything you worked the last 7 months for in one pass because you did an insecticide where it wasn't needed.
Yes.
So I killed the earthworms along with everything else that was out there. So that's where it goes back to a systems approach. If you're going to do cover crop and your goal is increase soil biology and reduce inputs, you've got to quit doing everything you've always done just because you've always done it.
Right.
Okay? Just because I put an insecticide, I did it because it's preventative and it was cheap.
Yeah.
I quit.
And you'd always done it.
Always done it.
Yeah.
I quit doing that. I never lost a plant to cutworms, and I maintained my earthworm population.
Wow.
I just had to do things different.
Yeah.
So the guys that have fundamentally changed the way they farm, who have seen these massive decreases in inputs, they've made changes.
Yeah.
They quit putting out insecticides just because they're going across the field.
Yes.
We have tons of beneficials that my understanding is like for every bad bug, we got 17 good bugs. But if you go out there and kill them all, you ain't got nothing, right?
Yeah.
So we try to do a better job of scouting. Hey, if we need to do something, we need to do it.
Yeah. It's
your livelihood. But don't do it just because you've always done it.
Right. Well, Carl, this has been an awesome podcast. Great interview. It's been really interesting to watch the past several years the evolution of cover crops in agriculture, row crop agriculture. And there's people like you who are really at the very front leading edge of this and really kind of leading the entire industry into a brave new world of really doing things pretty radically different than we did 20, 30, 40 years ago or before.
Right.
And, as we talked about, it's tough times right now for row crop agriculture, but there are some exciting things, and work like this seems to be a pathway to some real improvements in what we do and how we do them.
Yep. I would agree 100%. I think, we can get excited as farmers about new technologies and new this, new that, and everything else, but it is very exciting when you can look at reducing inputs and increasing your return on your investment, about being profitable. And I tell you what, one of my guys that is an absolute, he's the guy that saves so much money without affecting yields. He said, if I had to go back and farm the way I used to, he said, I'd quit.
Yep.
The stress and the outlay, and they're great farmers. They always make good yields. But he just said the outlay of money and the stress. He said now, it's like I'm at one with nature in trying to mimic. Mm-hmm. That's another thing Ray always talked about, trying to mimic nature. And he said, I'm doing the right thing, and I haven't hurt my yields, and I've dramatically reduced my inputs, and I'm more profitable. Mm-hmm. And not as volatile on bad years.
Yes.
Bad years are what kill you. Good years are good for everybody. It's the bad years that make and break you.
And cover crops can help.
They can help mitigate that. Absolutely.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who would like to know more about you and your company. How do people find you? How do people find your company? How do they reach out to you?
So name of our company is Choice Ag. We've got a Facebook page. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Email is choiceag@yahoo.com. Email me. I'll be glad to get back with you on anything. But again, our goal as a small independent seed company is not just with cover crops. We try to find smaller companies who are willing to give farmers a deal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, smaller independent companies. And
you don't have the overhead. You don't have some of the other things of other bigger companies.
No doubt. Yeah. So our whole deal is we don't do business like everybody else, because you can't. You're not going to be successful like that. I can't compete with the big guys.
Sure.
But what I can do is offer guys tremendous deals, whether it's on corn or beans or whatever it is, or cover crops, because we're finding smaller companies give them a better deal. And I think that's one of the big things that we're why we've been successful.
Well, really appreciate you joining us today, sharing your journey and your experience. I'm sure you got a lot of new fans out there today, so really appreciate you joining us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
And for everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out our website, farmersforsoilhealth.com, where you can find out more about our program and how to get involved. Stay tuned here for more insights on sustainable farming practices, and until next time.